Hello. Okay, so I'm going to put this video on Facebook in my group. Give me 1 second so that you guys can participate. Okay, here we go. Here's my group. Tune into the postpartum discussion here. Okay. So I'm going to give people just a second to join so that I know it's working. So, okay, I'm going to, and if you're watching, you can comment in the comment section below this video and I'll be able to see it because I'm watching Facebook while I'm talking, okay? So I'm gonna try this out because it's more reliable for me than Facebook Live. And like I said, I can have a recording afterwards. So, yeah, this is not the easiest topic to kind of just jump into because it's something that it's like hard for your heart, you know, to know that you went through something that's hard and you don't want anybody else to go through it either. And so my goal in doing this is to definitely not relive what I went through because that was not fun. But more, like I said before in my little intro video about why I was going to do this, when I just told many of you that my reason for being in this LuLaRoe business was to help other people in the same position as myself, which was just, I was just feeling like disconnected from myself and not like there was anything that I could do to really enjoy life anymore. Yuck, that was really awful. And so my goal in doing this is, you know, to do something fun for myself and support my family and that kind of thing, be available to them. But also I really do believe in the power of one person believing in another person. And I have a lot of belief to share for people who need someone to believe in them. My friends always know that I'm a very straight talker. And so they wouldn't take me shopping with them unless they knew that they wanted the straight truth. And typically that was a good thing because they wouldn't end up wearing something that they didn't want to wear. So I'm a straight truth person. And so I think that's what I'd like to be for you too, is someone that can have a straight truth with you, whether it's about how you look in something that's in my boutique, which is coming along, by the way. It's a little dark in the background, but we got some stuff going on this weekend, pretty exciting. But also to help people who might be struggling even now, or they're not sure if they're struggling because they just don't have a frame of reference. Hey, come on in. Have my LuLaBro joining. I'll scooch this way. We're just putting down Kindle. Hello.
Hey.
Is that going to be too short for you?
Let's see.
A little bit?
I'll be in the background.
Okay. So I was just giving an intro.
Cool.
Anyway, so yeah, I was just going to tell, what I thought I would do is start with kind of the different kinds of the feelings that I went through that I wasn't sure, like, what's baby blues? What's postpartum depression? When is it getting a little bit out of control? When was I maybe not listened to when I needed to speak up a bit louder? And then things that I did along the way that I think were really helpful. And then you can also chime in with your experience of watching someone like me. You probably saw things that I didn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that people who are in your shoes can also help. So, okay, so I'm going to start from just before I got pregnant. So I struggled with anxiety for a long time. So this is not a new journey for me, but it was. I mean, it was another level. I mean, anxiety that was kind of more generalized. So certain things would make me nervous, like travel would make me nervous, or you know, test anxiety, but more kind of average that would in some times, which would normally be very stressful, I'd have a little bit more need of some sort of support. So moving across the country, going to college, that kind of stuff. So I had and was taking a mild antidepressant or anxiety medication to try and help me with that, and was just on a kind of like a low to medium dose consistently. And that was before going into being pregnant. And so I wasn't opposed to medication. I'm still not opposed to medication. I think it's a really, really, really good tool, especially for people who need it or didn't catch it early enough to do other things. And I'm still on it, so if that helps. But so going into being pregnant, I think the hormones was rough. But I had a really rough pregnancy too. I was pretty sick for probably about 6 months of the 9 months, and for a variety of reasons. Hopefully that never happened to me again, but you never know. I mean, pregnancy, they all say, is different every time. So so I was somewhat prepared for maybe having a postpartum backlash afterwards, but you don't really know what you're looking at when that happens, because you're also going through a huge change in life,
especially with the first baby,
right? So you just don't know what's normal and what's not. So so we were going through just the adjustment, and when Kendall was first born, we immediately had really big challenges with breastfeeding, because she had a pretty severe lip tie and a tongue tie. And so in the first few days of her life, it was very stressful, because I was already in so much pain that we were pumping and trying to feed and crying every time she would try and latch and all this stuff. So it was hard, again, to differentiate what was going on, but not unusual to have baby blues. So I would say for me, baby blues was like kind of that irrational, sobby feeling where like I remember sitting out back, and I was with my mom, and I was just like blubbery buffawing about how I'm so sad that every day that she gets older, like from this point forward, she will never be as tiny as she is right now. So tomorrow she will not be as tiny as she is right now.
Real logical.
And it wasn't necessarily that tiny was super, super important. It was just, but she's going to be bigger. And I'm kind of glad my mom didn't look at me and laugh at me like, duh, like, welcome to parenthood. This is what's going to happen. So that was kind of more that like irrationally, like, wah, kind of frustration. One of the things that I did, knowing that postpartum depression might be a problem for me, I'd heard that, did some research on placenta encapsulation, can be really hippy-dippy to people that don't know about it, but I knew that there would be an element to it that would help balance my hormones. And so I had someone do that for me, and I did take those placenta encapsulation pills, and it was just, absolutely worlds different for me. Yeah. It was immediately helpful. And it didn't seem like a placebo pill either. It was just something that took me from here to here of feeling where I was myself, rather than feeling totally, blasted by what we were going through. So that was what I felt like was helpful, and I kept taking those. But where things started to get a little strange was, and I don't think at the time I recognized this as postpartum depression at all, it was when you went back to work right away. Yeah. You were traveling, and I would get really angry easily. So there wasn't a lot of, I think the key word for me knowing that something was wrong was resilience. He would come home from a trip, and I would just, everything that was pent up in me of him being gone and me being a solo parent in like the very, very, very early newborn stage would just come right out at him. And that's not abnormal, because you're really, you're going through a lot and you're tired and you're alone and it's hard, but it was like every single time that he left, it was like we would go through this same cycle of just being
overwhelmed.
Yeah, super overwhelmed. So I kind of shook that off as we're going through a lot of change. You're traveling, you have a hard schedule, and I'm, still struggling with breastfeeding. So that's probably what that is. But I think in hindsight, my inability to see like anger as depression is something that I hope other people can look into for themselves.
Yeah, because anger is always a secondary emotion, right? There's something underneath anger.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So the anger was, and here's the thing, like when you talk about postpartum depression, a lot of people come up with different experiences that are specific to them. So mine is just my experience. It may not be what your experience is or will be, or hopefully it won't happen to anybody. But many of the scenarios that I was told weren't anything like what I was experiencing. So nobody really talked about like anger or easily being irritated. Because you can very easily say that that's just female, but this was different for me. And I never felt that feeling of like, take the baby, I might throw it, or I'm going to do something completely hurtful and irrational to myself or to my husband or to my baby. Like I never, ever felt that way.
And those are things that you see if you look up on WebMD or something like that. Those are kind of the telltale signs, or not uncommon to say like, please take the baby, I might drop it intentionally, or the only time I ever wanted space from Kendall when she was really wilding out was when any normal parent would have wanted space to just take a deep breath and come back in 3 minutes and try again. So I never had that, and so I thought, well, gosh, maybe this isn't postpartum depression. So that was a misnomer for me. And then I went back to work. And I thought we were in a better groove a little bit, but everyone knows that going back to work is really, really hard, especially if you're still breastfeeding. Oh my gosh, because you're kind of at work, but you're not really, because you have to pump all the time, and you're always worried about your milk supply and things like that, and engorgement and meetings and people not really understanding because you want to sneak out and not make them uncomfortable. So anyway, so that was hard. But for us, I think one of the tipping points was my trip to California, which some of you know about because it was in news. When I ended up pumping in a janitor's closet in the LAX airport on my way back from a convention in California. And that was pretty awful. That was kind of like a set off point for me. It was pretty humiliating. It blew up in the news. It was overwhelming how much press it got. And then I tried to do like a task force for it to try and make changes, because I still can't believe that there's not enough support out there for people who are women that travel. And so I tried to do that, but it got scary. It got scary after that, because we were also doing, what else were we doing? We were moving. We were remodeling house.
And remodeling.
Yeah.
And so when my depression moved to anxiety was when, I don't know, it probably was. Oh, I know what it was. It was.
I thought you were talking about
my milk dried up. So Kendall was like 11 months old. Yeah. And that's the thing too. A lot of people talk about postpartum depression being like around 6 months or whatever, which is the only time you see your doctor, basically after the first couple of checkups right after you give birth. So there's nobody that's checking in on you to see if you're okay. Nobody's really tracking you except who you're with. And so we were going through so much change at the time that my milk dried up really fast. And it was great. 11 months is a huge blessing. Kendall was having a lot of trouble tolerating any formula, which was a lot of pressure on me. So we were just trying to make it to that mark where we could give her real milk or something like an almond milk or whatever. And so when my milk dried up, that was when we had real problems, because the anxiety is what hit. And the anxiety was like a panic. It was like a multi-day.
It's a little bit of a state of mania. Just like it was ongoing.
Yeah, so mania.
Mania. Right word,
I don't want to.
Like ongoing.
Yeah, mania is a little bit more intense. There are versions of it that can be like that. But it was close. It was like a level of struggling to sleep, struggling to eat, struggling to have any kind of conversation that was even slightly confrontational, not being able to handle any sort of something that would go wrong, whether it was like burnt toast or Kendall having a meltdown or Ryan going out of town. It was really bad. And doing that as well as like a day-to-day job. I mean, it
was just too much.
It was too much. Yeah. And, you know, over the weekends, when my doctor wouldn't be available or anyone would be available, if for some reason that was when my panic would hit. Usually it was cyclical, honestly. I think a lot of it was hormone based. I remember one time feeling so misunderstood because how are you supposed to understand?
Yeah.
Like, not at all.
Well, and you're both sleep deprived, new parents.
So you're both tired. I had told my doctor on 2 different occasions that I thought that I was struggling with postpartum. And he was like, well, you know, you're already on this low dose of, you know, anxiety medication. That should be fine for you. So I thought, okay, I've done everything I can from a medical perspective. I'm just going crazy. And, there was an occasion where I was just like, I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know what to do. I can't stop shaking. My limbs feel weak. I can't walk. I can't lift. I can't talk without crying. My heart would race. And it would be not minutes or hours on end. It would be several days on end that I just couldn't catch a break. And again, this is like an extreme version. So I don't want anybody to think that if you don't have it to this degree, that you don't have postpartum anxiety or you don't have postpartum depression, because again, that's the danger of, hold on one second. Having trouble refreshing. It looks like there are some people that are watching. Just want to make sure. Yeah, someone's telling me that they're having trouble, but I'm going to keep going just because this is also being recorded. So if you're having issues, you can watch the recording back. Where was I?
You were just saying that it was days.
Oh yeah. So don't think that it has to be this intense for it to be postpartum depression or anxiety. This is a good example of how far it can go if you don't track this. The more it feels like they're more benign feelings, like it's supposed to get to this level to be considered postpartum depression or anxiety, but I would argue the opposite. It's postpartum depression or anxiety if you're not feeling like yourself. I mean, again, I'm not a doctor, but from my experience, it was when I was not feeling myself or I was feeling frequently agitated. I couldn't handle some of the more basic things that just go wrong in life very easily. And then my milk drying up really quickly should have been a sign for me too that my hormones were going through a very fast change that was potentially dangerous for me emotionally. So keep that in mind. But I do remember at one point looking up a mental hospital on like a Saturday night because I just was like, I need help. I need something. I don't know what I need. I need to be knocked out. I just need help. I just need help. And I don't know what kind of help I need, but I need help. And I remember saying that to you. Mm-hmm. What was your experience like when this was going on?
I just think it was confusing because when you're a new parent, you're like, I know I'm tired. I know it's a new phase of life. It's a lot of change and adjustment. So you don't think, you think, you know, it's just kind of natural what you're going through. And there's often when there's postpartum, and I think when you've talked to other women about it, you recognize that there's something else going on, but because you haven't been down this road before, especially for first-time parents, it's hard to separate what is postpartum and what is just making the transition to being parents and having a newborn, and you know, if you're like us, having a busy lifestyle. So those are, I think that to me was one of the most confusing things. I was like, what is going on with you? You know, I thought maybe you're just really struggling to adjust to motherhood, but you're usually good with change. So yeah, that theory didn't add up. And they were like, well, the other thing that was confusing was how late it was post-pregnancy.
Yeah, that was one of the other really.
So, you know, I hadn't done a ton of research on postpartum. We had done some prior, but it was like, you know, it's usually in the first few months after the baby's born. So it was something that, drifted to the back of my mind, like, oh, we're 10 months after birth. Why would she have postpartum? And it was just a misconception of, how postpartum works. And so it wasn't really on the radar for being diagnosed. So those were the two things that if I could pass along to others, it's try to understand what's going on, not just being new parents, but with yourself emotionally for the moms with postpartum, and then really get educated on this if you're prone to anxiety and depression. That it's not just in the first few months; it can be further out.
Yeah, and even so, Kendall's almost 2 in October, and I'm still taking now a medium dose of something that would be helpful for depression or anxiety, and I have to have my hormones balanced every cycle, progesterone and estrogen. I do both of them because if I don't, I get off balance again. So, it's a long-standing thing your body goes through, and people just don't realize that. So I think overall okay, so I should probably say, like, when I got to that point of just really, really needing help, what helped? I had to go on a medical leave at work, and I think one of the most wonderful guardian angels that I had was my HRBP, my human resource business partner, because I had a couple of meetings with her to try and figure out, like, I just don't know if there's something wrong with my job that I'm coming back to, that I'm just not adjusting well to, or is it me? I just don't know. And I think she had already kind of picked up on the fact that I had changed quite a bit over the course of that period of time. And she just said, it's a medical condition to have postpartum depression. If that's what, I said that I might have that. And she said, that's a medical condition, a medical leave of absence to address something like that is more than reasonable. So, so I'm really grateful that she said that, because I probably wouldn't have had the strength to ask for that. And I probably wouldn't have considered it. I would have just soldiered on, because that's what we do. So she gave me the permission to take time off to get well. I was grateful for that. And I started, they increased my dose of medication for anxiety and depression and the hormone balancing. The acupuncture was enormously helpful on a regular basis. And I had to go like at least two times a week and be committed to it. And that was really good, really, really good.
I was just gonna say, all those things I think were part of a plan just to give yourself grace and allow yourself to recover, because what society will tell you is you have to race into motherhood and you have to be a great mother and you have to do all these things right away. And all those things allowed you to step back and just say, I need to take some time for myself and to get myself healthy, and being okay with that, I think, was a big part of the process and in your healing.
Yeah. I definitely. That's the hardest part. You're like suddenly going from being an independent woman, even if you're married, like you're very capable of doing kind of whatever you want as long as you put your mind to it. And then this little munchkin comes and takes over your body, takes over your hormones, takes over your dinner, takes over your mind, takes over your extra bedroom, is on you at all times, or you're on your mind at all times, if not on you. And then you're suddenly like, I'm supposed to just let it go. I'm supposed to like reach out and ask for other people to help me when I have the greatest amount of responsibility that I'm supposed to be really great at just biologically. And so I'm not a good mom, actually. I guess I'm really just not good at this mom thing because I need help. And that's not true at all. That's really, really dangerous thinking. And I still have to convince myself of that when I go for, I also do counseling. So when I put my daughter in daycare to go to counseling, then I'm not being a bad mom that she's crying and doesn't want to go. I'm being a really good mom because I'm putting myself in a place where I'm going to be more whole as a person. I can be a better mom. The oxygen mask analogy. And so I was just gonna say, I think you came out stronger as a result of it. I wish we would have been able, we would have had someone who would have helped us earlier, or helped us recognize what was going on earlier, just to avoid some of the pain. But I think, it is one of the reasons that
it's also brought you to LuLaRoe and this kind of work. So
it made me quit my job in the end.
There's anything else specifically about this story that I would add?
Yeah, I just, you know, I had to really realize that whatever I was spending my time on was really important if it wasn't my daughter. And so I changed my job. I left my job, and that was a really hard decision too, because I'd worked really hard to get that job. So, but I'm better off for it now. And I think the more that you're participating in things like we were participating in, we have something called Partners in Parenting here in Austin. That was really helpful. In fact, several people that I confided in during my time of really struggling were people that were in our PIP group, is what it's called. And that was reassuring because we were all in the same kind of phase of postpartum, and we could help each other when we were struggling. So that really helps.
Yeah. So just a little bit of clarity on Partners in Parenting. It's a local nonprofit for families, you know, families who all had kids around the same age, and they get together and talk about relevant topics, whether it's how you put your kid to sleep or how you adjust with work and life schedule. But
specifically for newborn, like newborn life. It's not just like preschoolers with preschoolers.
Yeah. So it was us and 4 other couples who had children within 3 or 4 months of when our daughter Kendall was born. So it was really, that community through PIP was amazing for us.
It was really helpful.
Yep.
So that was helpful. And then now I think like I've said before, my mom dragged me out of the house and said, like, we got to put you in something that gets you excited to leave the house. Like, let's give you a really, really great outfit that you wouldn't buy for yourself. And I'm like, you're insane. I feel like garbage and you're putting me in a really nice dress. Why? And she just kind of was like, well, you'll figure it out, you know, but ultimately it's because you're not seeing what I'm seeing, which is the same Hayley that I love, that everybody loves, that's now a mom, which is even more amazing. And I'm like, but I don't have anything to wear it to. She's like, well, too bad.
Wear it
and
to
then
Starbucks.
Suddenly I realized I wanted to wear it, and I wanted to find something to wear it to. And that gave me something to do or look forward to. And then it was just a really positive cycle from there. So I do think that self-care is a big one that brings you out, whether it's the self-care is something like spending time with friends, whether it's to be completely alone and in the bathtub with a good book, whether it's running and mentally running away from those feelings, to talking them through with a counselor, to spending time with your spouse, to shoving the kid on the spouse and saying like, I gotta take it. I gotta go get a pedicure or something. So give yourself that grace. And hopefully what we can do through LuLaRoe with you guys is, one, I'm always here. Just if you have this struggle or you want to know more about it, or you are concerned that you're going through it, but you don't want to like call your doctor again for some other thing that you're just not sure if you should, just message me. I would love to be a gut check for you. If you're curious about why doing something like this might help you, let me know. You have to be in the right place to take on a big project, because it's no small peanuts, but it is really fun. It's a beautiful, like, uplifting thing
experience,
for us. But also if you are, if you have suggestions for other people, you can leave them in the comments too, because we're all in this together. And I'm sure I'm gonna have to rewatch this for myself someday if I ever get pregnant. I'm like, how did I feel? How crappy did I feel before I actually got the help I needed? Like, real crappy. So don't do that again. But yeah, so thank you again for you guys just being encouraging to me about just mentioning that postpartum depression was a part of my story, specifically anxiety, and that how often that goes not spoken about, because it's all about the depression, but it's not just you sobbing in a corner. There's a lot of other feelings that can make that condition be. And I'm just going to check and make sure there aren't any comments over here that I'm missing. So, but you're welcome to comment or just let it. Oh, thank you, Aga. I love you. You were one of the people that really helped me in my journey. So, and still do. So anyway, that's my story. Anything else from like a spouse perspective?
No, I think, the biggest thing was just in that time when you have a newborn, just trying to understand what's going on with your spouse. and try to separate the newborn land with how your spouse is feeling it. It can be confusing. So it's always good to have community, and it's always good to just hear other people's stories, because I think that would help us a lot. So
yeah, and I think you needed an outlet too. I needed an outlet, but you needed an outlet because you were my outlet sometimes, because I couldn't leave the house.
That's a great point.
And so I would take it out on you. I would beat the crap out of you, just feeling like, here, take some of this from me, because I can't take it on all by myself. And then if you tried to give it back, it was just like it was a mess.
That didn't work.
No.
So it was either my outlet was probably either the gym or just having some quiet time.
Or friends. You had some good friends that you called too. Yeah. So, and I'm sure travel was helpful and harmful.
Every once in a while, yeah.
Everybody was like, "Thank God I would."
But yeah, no, I think self-care is important and all that as well. Yeah. So no, I think that you covered all the important points.
I think that's it then. So I hope this has been helpful, and thanks again for being open with me, and
have tuning in.
Great Sunday night. Okay.
See you guys.
Bye.